That top 1% life. We all want it. Let's just talk it. Let's just put it out there. We all want that top 1% life. And I'll tell you what, one of the things that I am learning, and it hits home with me with today's guest, is I'm never going to get there alone. I've got to build a team. I've got to make a team, make sure their dreams come true, right? Before I'm ever going to be able to accomplish what I want to accomplish. And that's exactly what we're talking about today, and exactly why I wanted to bring on our expert, Kathleen Black, to talk about just that and talk about her book, The Top 1% Life, the Real Estate Edition. Let's bring her in. Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Jay Helms, and if you're new here, if this is your first time discovering the W2 Capitalist, we as the W2 Capitalist are a resource for married men and women to build multiple streams of income through real estate investing so that you can be more present. I don't know why I stumbled there. More present, both mentally, speaking of mental, and physically with your spouse and your children, and help you put you on a path toward building generational wealth. Personally, I want to be the guy that helps you remove stress and anxiety that comes with financially providing for your family, right? So today's episode is with Kathleen Black, all right? I brought her in because she is a team building expert and she recognizes her strengths and weaknesses. She's not afraid to pass the buck. And also she recognizes that in order for her to be successful, she has to help make the people around her successful, right? All right. I'm super excited for you guys to hear this. Let's get into it. Kathleen, welcome to the show. I am excited you're here.
Thank you. Thanks, Jay. I'm excited to be here.
So we are here and by the way, guys, right before you hit the record button, Kathleen was, I mentioned something about her accent, which she's Canadian. You're going to pick up on that here in a little bit. She said, I picked up on yours too. And yes, redneck. It is an accent. It's okay, right? But we are here to talk about your book. And the title of your book is The Top 1% Life, the Real Estate Edition, which is what drug me to it. And it's the real estate agent's guide to free up your time, build your business and confidence, and finally have a life outside of sales, which I know is a huge thing for real estate agents of when do I get a break, right? And while I'm not an agent, a lot of our listeners are, and I feel like even though it fits with the W2 Capitalist model very, very much so, right? Because W2 Capitalist folks have their normal 9-to-5 job, they're side hustling to build a real estate portfolio, and then they have their family, right? Possibly married, possibly have a couple of kids. So it's almost like, where do we get a break? And I think this is why your book is going to speak to them so much. And if you guys stick around toward the end, we're going to give you some free resources that Kathleen's been just generously offered while we're chatting before hit the record button. But tell us about the book. Tell us what inspired you to write the book, why you wanted to do that. I'm going through the book writing process myself right now, and it's interesting. It's a daunting task, I should say. But why did you want to write the book, and what fueled you to, what inspired you to do it?
Well, I think initially I was just knew, I don't know, it was one of those things I just knew I would write a book, but it is a daunting process and task. This is very true. So it took a little while, but this book ended up to be, I'll call it a bridge book, because I've been coaching and working with, in the real estate world, top producers or people top of their field who wanted to leverage and expand for about 12 years now, full time. And at the beginning, I was working with, individuals who needed to grow and leverage. And I mean, now I have a team of coaches and we work with a lot of like big existing teams, but I wanted to write a book that went back, to the beginning of how I help people kind of build and expand from scratch to have more time. And, that leverage actually is possible if you have a path to do it that makes sense. And often not leveraging is actually more risky than leveraging. So, it's a combination of that, but I think it's also the mindset of, the hurdles of what we need to get over to be strong enough to actually use the systems and tools and, paths that are available to us as leaders. I think that's probably the part I'm most passionate about. I love to help people give themselves permission to do what they were born to do. And I think when that happens, it's a pretty beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. And that's, just with my story, I think I never allowed myself, that's such a powerful statement. Give yourself permission to you said, put it so beautifully. What did you say? Give yourself permission to
Oh, do what you were born to do, I
do
think.
what you were born to do. Thank you. To do what you were born to do. And it took me 20 years of being in the W2 world, having a boss, working for public and private companies. And all the time I had this entrepreneurial spirit just burning inside of me. It was a very low flame, right? And eventually, thankfully for COVID, I was laid off, right? And I grabbed it and I was like, all right, I'm laid off. This is the blessing we've always wanted, because I never could find the courage to do it myself. Right.
Mhm,
And now I'm kind of feel like I'm backed in a corner, and that's when I perform my best. Right.
mhm.
But
Yeah.
folks who aren't like that or still stuck in that, they are like that. How do they work toward giving themselves permission to do what they were born to do? Like, what's the step in getting past that? Does that make
Well,
sense?
yeah, I think it makes sense. And it's funny, like I just said, we're working with a new program this morning. That's kind of what we're working on, inside out leadership, like getting the clarity on who we are, what's important to us, where we actually want to put our resources so that we can say yes to the right things, but often no to the wrong things. And that sounds so easy. I mean, we hear that all the time, but like it's not easy. Like if you don't have crystal clear clarity, often I always say, like, my metaphor is 100 pennies a day, right? Like if your urge of energy or time or money, you have 100 pennies, that's it. So once you spend them on the little stuff that life keeps like testing you, I need this, I need this, like eventually you're like, wait, at the end of the day, I never have any, like 5 pennies or nothing towards what's actually going to day over day build into something bigger. And I think until we realize that, some resources are finite and some are not, we kind of trick ourselves into thinking we'll just get there, but it's not. It's knowing ourselves, what's important to us, and actually allocating the resources in that direction. And that's a journey. I think it's a journey we're on
Yeah,
forever, right?
absolutely. And I think that's where, where I got hung up my entire career, in trying to figure out what I want to do, because I was a perfectionist. Now, my perfection wasn't necessarily really good for somebody else, but it's the way I looked at things, and it's the way that I wanted things to happen, so to speak. And I would not make a move because I was like, it's not perfect yet,
Mhm.
right? Or it's not, I don't think it's ready or not yet. And eventually over time, just like you said, I figured out, okay, I don't have to be perfect. I just need to take some action, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that, with some calculated risk, I'm taking action that could or could not be the wrong action. But the idea is to eventually reassess and
Mhm.
then shift, right? Is that something you teach your folks as well?
Yeah, definitely reassess and shift, but also, throw that anchor into the future, right? Like you have to have a
Mm,
North Star that you're going towards. And I think, it's one of the principles we talked about today, direct for, in my opinion, top 1% mentality, direction precedes action, right? Like we have this myth of just take action and just go out there and just build it. And I don't think it's that simple. Like the top people, they're very careful, right, with their resources and where they're trying to go. So yeah, I think for me, it's like having, and most of my clients having, big vision, 1 year or 2 years or 5 years really allowed us to kind of course correct very often
yeah.
back towards where we were trying to go.
So how do you know, like you personally, you have things you're working on now, right? And you've got these projects, and I'm assuming that at some point in time you're focused on, I just got to take action. I just got to do something. How do you know that you're taking the best course of action that you know of at the time?
Well, I think there's two different, there's me as a person, right? What do I
Right.
want to do in the company? But then there's also a business, and the business in my case is bigger than me, as it should be. And I think it's constantly looking at, having a mentality of the business in the next,
Mm,
like the next 18 months. So in my head, I'm always looking at who's going to be in place in 18 months. What are we going to be achieving? And to me, it's more detrimental not to put those things in place, right, than it is to.
yeah.
So I'm constantly just trying to jump off the cliffs to get there, as quick as possible, because I think it's the raft builder mentality, right? It's like we can wait for life to happen to us, or we can go, hey, I'm building the future into creation anyways. I might as well
Yeah.
build it into where I want to go. So, I mean, for a business, it's different because I'm going to look at, where's my weakest links, where's my strongest links, where are my opportunity loss or costs high because I'm not growing, and I need to adjust with that. So I think they're two different questions, right? Once you have a
Yeah.
team in business, for sure.
Yeah, and so right now you said you're thinking 18 months ahead. So when Kathleen comes to work, she's like, "All right, we're recording this in the middle of January in 2021, sorry." And but you sit down and you're planning out what's going to happen in May and June of 2022. That's what you're saying,
Well, I'm
essentially.
trying to build it now. Yeah, like I mean, planning, yes, but also to visual,
Yeah.
like your org chart, like who's on your team, what are they doing,
Yeah.
what would you need to have in place to confidently expand? Like, are you putting, big growth patterns? Like last year, we came in with a goal to triple our business, and then obviously 2020 was an interesting year, and we still grew. We did not triple the business, but we grew and we maintained, and we held our people in a strategic mindset, which we're in the coaching business, so that was really important. But within 10 years we'll have tripled it, or sorry, 5 years we were to have tripled it again. So my job is to look at not where we're at now, but what needs to be in place. And so every decision we make now, all those little micro commitments and micro decisions, are based on where we're going. They're not based on where we're
Gotcha.
at now. So I find a lot of businesses get stuck in the good enough, and it's
Yeah.
working, and it's like you can't do everything at once. But my thing is always, if it's a real estate client, if you were double as busy with this work, if you were triple, mine is if we had 1,000 times the business we had now, would it work? Right. And it really
Yeah.
helps you level up.
Well, that's interesting. Is that there's so much to unpack there. I'm going to lose my train of thought, so I'm going to try to make some notes real quick. And but I want to throw this question at you while I'm doing that. Is you said in order for you to be able to think ahead, right, and be able to do this, and you've said the word team probably 100 times at this by this point in time, which so it's very important for you, and you've got a good team, and you wouldn't be able to think 18 months ahead without that team in place, right? And I envy that you're thinking that far ahead. I am about 6 months from here, right? And I only really have one person. I've got a VA that helps me out. I
Mhm.
know I need to grow my team, but
Mhm.
I don't know where like to go next. Like I don't necessarily know what to delegate because of something you just said. Is it's not that it's good enough. It's almost to the point of I don't want to delegate this because I don't think anybody else can do it. You know what I mean? Like to my level of, again, perfection. I mean, let's just call it what it is. So how would somebody start? Let's just say they have grown their business to a point now and they're like, I'm burning my candle at both ends. I have no family time. My
Yeah.
wife is getting angry at me. I really need to hire somebody to do something. What's the first
Yeah.
step in hiring the first person or the next person, right?
Well, for a lot of people, it's depending on your business, this isn't 100% true, but for a lot of people, it's going to be, the paperwork, the administrative side, the
Hmm.
logistics side of the business. And I mean, if you're a driver, most drivers are not thriving in that area of the business. Like you're talking about perfection, which means you probably have more of a detail-oriented personality, right? But not everybody does. And a lot of drivers are kind of like, oh, okay, I'm getting this done. But the reality is it's usually not a strength for them anyway. So there's a couple of things that I would say, and I'm trying to think, there was something when you were talking that I wanted to bring up. But anyways, the second piece of it, oh, I got it. So there's two little flip switches that are really important, right? Like I work with a lot of people in sales, whether it's insurance, mortgage, real estate, they're in sales. And the reality is that for those people, most of the time, I mean, they're first of all, they're demoting themselves often by not getting the help that they need because the
Yeah.
hourly value of those tasks are a lot lower. So they'll be like, oh, I'm making more money. But most of the people in sales, when they keep making more money, they're actually making less per hour because they're diluting themselves down. But there's a really important mental shift that just has to happen because if you take that same perfectionist mindset or driver mindset or achievement mindset, whatever it is, right, for your personality and whoever's listening, and instead of looking at it and saying, I'm winning because I get it done, I'm winning because I get it done at this higher, echelon of performance. If you switched it and said, I only allow myself to win when the people around me win. I only win when that administrator or that team member or that marketer or whoever it is for you comes into my environment and they thrive. And unless they do, I don't even get to tell myself I'm winning because I'm bringing in revenue. It doesn't matter because I'm costing myself the future of the business. And when you help somebody to shift like that, and it sounds, again, easy, it's not. It's a massive shift because like we're humans, right? So our egos love okay, we're getting it done. We did it right. We're a value, but for team leaders and business owners and, people have a team of people, that'll take you under. It's like, I only win if they win. The other thing that I find really helps, and I put it this way, and I say it this way on purpose, because remember, I coach, right? So I get like coaches are used to a lot of pushback. Okay. So I say it this way. All right. So you're telling me you're taking something that you spend maybe 20 or 30% of your time doing, right? Whatever those tasks are. And you're giving it to somebody who's going to spend 100% of their time doing that. And you're telling me we can't get that person if we profile and we do a hiring process to perform at your level or better. And then like it just twists your mind, right? And you're like, wait a minute, they've got 100% of the time. And most people are spending even less than they think on the tasks that they leverage later. So I don't know if you're following, but it's a lot of just perspective changes. And then it's training and profiling and having a hiring process. Like, don't get me wrong, we have systems behind all of that. It's not just, like it's educated risk, not
exactly. And that was that was where I was going to go next is you do need to hire folks. How do you ensure that you hire the right person, right, to fit whatever it is that you need? And then how long do you allow, and this is the perfectionist in me coming out, right? It is, before I even go entertain an interview, I want to know how long am I going to give this person and how much coaching am I going to give this person before I decide, okay, they're the wrong fit, and then start the process over again, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it depends if you've got like your system to train and coach them on too, right? Like some people are creating that as they go. So it's like, I'm trying to create this process. I'm trying to hire, I'm trying to train all at once. That's next to impossible. Like that's really hard. It's really hard. So unless you hire somebody who's going to set it up for you, or you're going to, that's why people work with companies like mine or many, many others. Like it's not just because they're going, okay, like I actually know what's working. I have a set point like to compare to, and I can get support to get them up and running quicker. Like to try to create a position, train it, and get them thriving at once. Like it's truly not a great recipe, right?
Yeah, well, you're touching all the right buttons over here. But it's good. I mean, it's almost like you got to start with the documentation and then have the training to be able to set those persons up for success. And I love that line of, I only win when the people around me win. And I absolutely despise the quote of somebody saying I'm a self-made millionaire. I'm like, in America, you're not a self-made millionaire. There's no freaking way that your ego may be feeding you that line and making you think that, but you received help from somebody, some system, something other than just you and you alone. And I despise people who say that. It's not something I'll ever come out of my mouth unless I'm picking on them, right? And I'm making fun of them, because I truly believe that. And kind of back to the hiring process, because not every, I mean, even though it is a hiring process, somebody's going to slip through the cracks. Some stragglers are going to slip through the cracks. They're not going to, meet the performance that you want them to. How long do you give them up to realize, all right, this person's is not going to win in my system? They are destined to do something else, right? And move on, and allow them to move on.
Well, like if you believe your business is a mirror of you for as a leader, as a person of talent, genius, whatever you're bringing, then I think a great leader is going to keep working with them until they know they've done everything they can. And once they know they've done everything they can, now they have a reference point again. Now they have a set point. So next time they know, hey, I went through this, because think like there's valuable learning there. As leaders, I find every time your company expands, you hire new people or different people, you're learning how to lead at that level. And we get better and better at it. And the better we get at hiring and training and recruitment, the more
Yeah.
success the people who we hire have. It's not just about, like, I truly believe environment outperforms talent in most
Hmm.
situations. There's some outliers, but the average is it does. And I agree with you, everything's co-creation, but most of the time people are only going to perform up to the expectations of their environment. So I'm really careful with that question, because some leaders need that time because they're learning how to set it up properly.
Yeah.
But once you have it, I think it's also, as the business grows, sometimes you have people who are great and they don't see the vision of the future, or they don't fit anymore. And I mean, it's like anything else. If you put too much value in any one person, it's like you're almost putting the energy backwards, because it's
Mm.
like it's that vacuum where it's more valuable. Like, you really want them to stay. And I think as leaders, we have to always be open to change and growth and
Yeah.
whatnot. So it's a good question you gave me, but it's a hard one, because it depends on what they're doing and how trained they were. And, there's so many factors to it.
So that's the engineer coming out of me, where everything has to be objective for it to make sense, right? Instead of a subjective answer. That's what that is. So I love the way you answered it though, and something you said there about environment outperforms talent almost every time. There are definitely some outliers to that, but as a real estate investor, and as real estate investors listening to this, you have to look at your business, at your investing activities as a business, right? And a lot of us don't. A lot of us, if we have our W-2 job and we're not, uh, we're looking at, and for the longest time, I called it a hobby, right? Hey, well, no, it's my hobby. I mainly said that because I didn't want my boss to get mad that I was investing on the side, because I knew he wouldn't understand it and he would have issues with it. And so I want to encourage everybody listening to this, if you're just starting or if you're almost to that point where you don't need your W-2 anymore, treat your investing like a business and be thinking about what your next hire is, because it something you said at the very beginning where it just allows you to think ahead, right? For looking forward down the road, 18 months for you, 6 months for me, which I don't know. I think maybe I need to hire a couple more people to allow me that longevity or that runway. But it's just one of those things. Treat it like a business and think about your next talent. And you said something in your book. You give us a few myths and truths in your book. And chapter 3 is probably one of my favorite ones. And this is, I've told myself this story a long time, a lot too, is that the myth is teams take too much time and money to develop. But the truth is, as you put it, the function of a team is to provide you more time and money with less expense and less effort.
Mhm.
That's exactly true. I just can't get over that mental hurdle, that mental break of that's what I need to do. So, any advice for guys like me who are sitting here,
Yeah.
they're working a full-time job, they're trying to side hustle investing, and they're
Mhm.
like, oh, if I only had time to do this. Instead of saying if I only had time, I should be
Sure.
saying if I had somebody to fill this gap for me,
Mhm.
where I could just spend 10 or 15 minutes with them a week
Yeah.
and them do the rest of it. How can I get over that mental hurdle? How can everybody listening to this get over that mental hurdle?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. And first, like, I think with you saying, the 6 months, and a lot of people relate to that, right? With the business, getting a 2 year or 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, even 10 year. Not everyone can do that, even like somewhere like that. But vision, it get like tension creates urgency, right? And we can create our own tension, our own urgency by having these visions, because when we have the vision of 2 years from now, we're going to reverse engineer it. So all of a sudden it's like, I need to know myself. I need to know my strengths and weaknesses first, because joy comes into this. Like, money is important, but it's not everything. Like, I think at a certain point you get to the point where you're like, I have enough money and I'm miserable. Do I really want to keep doing life this way? Right. So it's like, what do I actually love to do? Because I have more longevity there. What are the things that I actually cringe at, that are exhausting me, that are draining my energy? They're costing me more than the money of doing them, because they're affecting my other things. How much are those worth at market value? And all of a sudden you could look at it and say, well, if I could do double the time in my genius area that I love, that usually is what makes the business the most money, not always, but usually, then how much would I actually be making more by putting that person to do, you know, this list of other things? And then you do it every quarter. It's not like you
Yeah.
stop. Like the reason I can live in the future is it's okay. I used to love managing, for example. I used to do a lot of management still in our company. And about a year and a half ago, the company just grew again. And I realized, you know what? I'm not a good enough manager. Like I'm a good leader. I'm a good inspirer, but I'm not like this manager stuff. Like this is going, right? So all of a sudden the realization was we moved all that off my plate. What happened? Instantly, I was still full with the other things. I wasn't even seeing the opportunities in the business because I was capping myself with the stuff that I was not doing well anyway. It was costing us. So I'm a big believer, like I chart everything. So you're hearing me talk like vision but right now I'm building a new program. I'll chart all like everything, cost of sale, cost of salary, like if you actually run the numbers and ask yourself if there are more opportunities on the table, if you moved it over, not everyone would make more money, but most people would. And the other side of it is to give yourself, like, I'm a big believer in incremental goals. So if I can't afford it yet, I'll say, where do I need to get to so I can say yes and still be in an educated risk position? And I'll chart it out and I'll hold myself to it. I'll say, you're right. Right now it's a little bit too scary, but you know what? The minute I hit that, boom, and everything I do leading up to is preparing. So the minute I hit that benchmark, I can leverage myself even more. And then it just keeps going. It becomes like a mental trick kind of thing, like to constantly organize that way. Yeah.
That's good. Do you ever drift away from that system that you have and be like, oh, I need to get back on track?
Yeah, well, I feel like a course correction is constant, right? Like I'm a bit like, you know, it's not everybody course corrects, just some people take 2 weeks, other people take 2 minutes, or some people take 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and constantly, you know, like and I mean, I think like everybody else, building a business is at times was exhausting. You know, as a single parent, 2 little kids, like
Yeah.
I've never had enough resources to do what I've done. Never. Like to me, bending money, time, and energy is a necessity. So yeah, like there are times where I had like this summer, I went and hiked 800 kilometers across Spain. Like we raised money for shelters and I kind of checked out. I was like, I'm keeping my team employed. I'm not letting anybody go. I'm downing my salary in COVID. Like I need to check out a bit. So yeah, for sure.
How did you come back from that? How did you shift back? Because you were gone for how long? I don't know how far 800 kilometers are. It sounds like a really long way, but
Yeah.
how many months did that take, or weeks?
Well, it was supposed to take me anywhere from 34 to 38 days. And it's across Spain in the mountains, medieval. It's beautiful. Camino de Santiago, if anybody's ever heard of it. But so it's a pilgrimage, really. It's like people are called to do it. But it ended up to take me, 26 and a half days? Like, because wherever you go, there you are. And, you know, for some reason, it was a unique year to go. There's lots of things. But my team was good. They gave me, we had to do 2 weeks of quarantine, but they gave me a week of kind of like buffer in. I was still doing some things, but
you got reacclimated.
But week 2, I was slammed for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I was just right back in it. But this, you know, this is life. It's like you're on season, off season, right? I got my off season, so I was good for my on season.
That's good. How did you take the news of and maybe you wanted it, I don't know, but you know, being at the top of an organization, I feel like there is some management always involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's part of the role. But how did you take the news of, all right, you're no longer going to manage, you're going to focus on this? Was that like a big relief for you? It was a slap in the face. What was how did that go for you?
I think it was a couple of things. No, like I identified it and I went to our directors, like our leadership team. And I think it was a couple of things. It was an awareness because I'm constantly trying to say, what's the next thing I need to give to somebody else and I'm nurturing certain people. So some people, it's like, I'm going to drip them more things over time. But it was an awareness of, you know what, I'm struggling with this, A, B, I've got other leaders in positions who are very capable and should really probably be a time to take this on. So I didn't look at it. I looked at it more at, allowing the leaders in place to take ownership and responsibility and thrive at what they're good at. And
Yeah.
that's what they did. And I gave them more room to grow, and they did grow with it. So I think they
Gotcha.
were, they felt I was humble and vulnerable to tell them, like, hey, I'm not loving this. But
Yeah. And they probably respect you more as a leader now because you were able to do that. Right. And you were able to say, look, this is an area that I suck at. You're great at it already. I just need to turn it over. Here you go. I mean, I think that's awesome. Back to the plan, right? And getting refocused and whatnot. You've got a line in your book. It says expansion does not have to be painful, although it does have to be focused and brave. How do you maintain the focus? And it's kind of my second way to ask this question, because it's something that I struggle with is, and I even teach a course on using Brian Moran's 12-week year and how to stay focused and whatnot. But even I get amazing stuff out of that when I follow it. And people who have completed the course get amazing stuff out of it. And then it's almost like I'm so exhausted from going through it in 12 weeks that I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a break from this. And then I'll look up and it's a year later and I'm like, why didn't I actually do more? So how do you stay focused? And is it one of those things where maybe I'm pushing myself too hard, um, or am I just don't have the system to roll from one quarter to the next and that sort of thing?
well, I mean, it's like staying focused. Like, to me, it's where am I getting, like, I always want to have my finger on the pulse of the business, right, in certain places. So if I feel like we're not getting traction, like, I'm very sensitive to, wait a minute, like, what's going on, right? These ads are out, we're tracking and monitoring all the different areas of the business. Now, was I always there? No, there were points where I was like, just get it up and running enough so I can track it and try to get it going forward. But I think it really is like that vision, the vision of the future pulling you forward. Like, it has to be that clear. So it's not that I'm holding back and going, what do I do? Or maybe do I do this? It's like, I've got people around me who I've put in place who it's a necessity for us to grow and move forward, right? Like, they're in place for us to hit our next goal at all times. So I think a couple of things. I'm not scared to book myself quite aggressively in my role in the business. Like, I'll get very clear and go, this is what I need to be doing. And I will hold myself accountable. Like, I'll sell a program before I built it, because guess what? When you have money coming, like, if you can't sell it, there's no point in building it, right? Like, I know that seems backwards to a lot of people, but like, it's like an investment. Like, if you can't pull out money, you can't refinance, you can't do the burr approach, you can't like why even do it? Like, it just, but in business, we get in this idea, well, I'll build it and see how it goes. Like, no, if I can't get traction with it. So I think that that's a piece of it. I mean, honestly, I'm a natural, I love energy. I love momentum, right? I love flow. So to be in a business without feel like, it's almost like, I think it's, what is his name says this, it's another team thing, but it's like, if you ask a room of entrepreneurs, like, how do you feel without momentum? It's like, you feel like dead. Like, you feel like you're not alive. Like, having that pulse, once you feel it, is just such a beautiful thing. So to be honest, one of my like, I just came off a program and everyone said, when I'm around you, I feel like focused and inspired and, strategic, because those words come out, like, strategy, focus, and being efficient, not wasting time is part of my nature. And I think that's why I help other people, because to me, I can't imagine not naturally doing it.
So you're probably like me and you hate Sundays and Saturday. Like, because it's downtime, and with having young kids, I have to remind myself, hey, it's something you need to do. You need to spend more time with them, blah, blah, blah. And not blah, blah, blah. I don't mean it in that way, but it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, but there's so much, like, why hasn't this person responded to me yet? I need to send them another email, but it's Sunday afternoon. Are they going to feel like it's weird that I send them on, early on a Saturday morning or at midnight on a Friday night, and I'm like, I can't turn it off sometimes. And some people don't like that. And some people do. Some people gravitate toward that. And, I don't know. Sometimes I just kind of put the brakes on and think, all right, am I nuts or am I just listening to the wrong people? And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I spent yesterday building a program, but then, my other half kind of said, I'm so proud of you for working so hard. I said, no, 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 like those days are done. Like there's no way I should have been doing that yesterday. And I'll kind of tell myself
Yeah.
off because I need my brain's better with recharge. And every study they show, we're more efficient, we're more creative when we put it down, but it's just
Mhm.
putting it every year I go on a big adventure, my business grows. And in the past, I would have never given myself permission. Right. And why? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm better off with it. So I hear you because I'm task driven. Like I'm very active on my downtime, but I'm very creative. Like I'll get a million business ideas out, like stand up paddleboard. It's just because you're relaxed, right? And your brain
Yeah.
can work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just for reference, she said yesterday, so we're recording this on Monday. She's talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
Sunday, when that happened. So that's incredible. So, um, 2021, every year you plan a big adventure. Do you have your big adventure plan for this year?
Well, I'm kind of like I'm in Canada, and I mean, US is the same thing with it's been an interesting year, and they're talking
Yeah,
about
that's true.
restricting travel again. And I mean, when I went last year, it was I believe everything I've done great in life has been because I refuse to live in fear, but I am respectful and careful and
Yeah.
community-based person. I want to protect people around me, but um it's a good, what, I'd love to do the Camino again, but I have Kilimanjaro on my list. I want to hike that, and there's just so many adventures to go on, right? So it'll depend on the year. If not, I might go in some local hiking adventures this year.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we'll see. Looking forward to hearing what you decide and what you that's incredible. I used to hike and trek and no longer. That's just interesting story around all that, but no longer in my repertoire. Of course, I'm not nowhere near in the shape to do it either. So that would be a whole thing. All right.
Mhm.
So we're getting up close on time. Matter of
Yeah,
fact, I think we're over on time. Do you have a few moments to entertain us with some off the wall
sure.
questions?
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
All right. So speaking of travel,
Mhm.
how would the world, this is off the wall question number one. I'm going to give you three. How would the world be different if Zeppelins had caught on and were the dominant form of air travel today?
Zeppelins. I don't even know
Yeah.
if I know what it's. I'm drawing a blank. Like as in, what are Zeppelins?
Like the blimps, like the big blimps. It was back in World War II, I think it was,
Yeah.
they were used.
Okay.
And do you know what I'm talking about? Like you go to a sporting event and like the Goodyear
Yeah,
blimp,
I
they
know what
show
those
up.
are. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's similar to that.
You have to understand, like I haven't watched TV in like, I don't know, 18 years. I don't have cable. I'm one of those people,
I
I'm
love
very
it.
careful about what my brain sees and takes in.
That's awesome.
How would travel be different if there were still blimps? I don't even know how many people would end up on a blimp. I think we'd chill and relax a lot more because we're used to quit. I don't think they're that fast. I'm gonna
No,
answer
I don't
that.
think they're definitely not. Like we could fly from here to Costa Rica in about 3 hours, right? From where we're
Oh,
at. So we're
yeah,
in Florida.
yeah,
And no, not on a blimp. Not on a Zeppelin. It's
yeah,
definitely not going to be. It's definitely going to take longer.
yeah.
And I think the world needs a little bit more chilling out to
Yeah, I think
happen.
so.
So, not to pick on any airline pilots. I know a couple, but that's interesting. That's an interesting
Yeah.
perspective. All right. So, question number two. Uh, I'm not going to ask you that one. Here we go. If you put out a brand of beer, wine, soda, or another beverage,
Mhm.
what would it be? What would you call it? And how would you differentiate your brand?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't drink beer, so we won't say beer. A
Of-
beer or wine or soda.
Yeah.
You know what? I think to me, well, because I've probably spent more time visiting wineries than I should. That's another story. Not lately. But you know what? I think I would create a wine, and I think I would have it based on a process. Like some of my favorite places, they all like everything. They have beautiful stories, right? Of like how their family, like there's a place in Niagara on the Lake that does the official, like I can't remember, a passamento ripasso. I'm probably saying it wrong. Italians like, oh my gosh, but style. And they've taken it like their family did it in Italy, and they were the first ones to bring it here. And they have beautiful wines. They sell out their batches every time. They're lovely, but it's also just like there's such a belief in that. Like I'm a big legacy
Mm,
person, and there's their family business, and they're also what do you call it? They constantly want to master the best of the best. And I love people who make the impossible possible, right? So I would
That's
do something
awesome.
like that. Yeah.
What would you call it?
Oh my gosh. What would I call it? I don't, that is a good question. What would I call it? I don't even know.
Maybe we found the perfectionism in you right there.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? We once launched this personal development coaching that was called Core Pursuit, but Kore, and it's based on
Yeah.
a Greek goddess that was like essentially, powerful, like getting people in alignment and whatnot. So maybe I'd do that,
I
Kore,
like it.
or hey, why
I
not?
like that. When you do that, I will buy a bottle for sure.
Thank you.
That's awesome. All right, last one. If every time you snapped your fingers, you were instantly transported to a random point in humanity's timeline,
Mm.
would you snap your fingers? If so, how often?
Yeah, I think I would snap my fingers, and I don't know how often. Anytime I wanted to reconnect, because I've done a lot. Like when I did the Camino and did things, I have a keen interest on energy points and places that people have been drawn for, thousands and thousands of years, and the history of how it's gone, like pagan to Christian to what, right? Like to
Yeah.
all these things. So I think I would love to go back and see, were people drawn to the same experiences to align themselves, right, with the
Yeah.
energy points as now. So yeah, I don't know exactly what year, but hey, I'd love to see it.
That's awesome. Uh, Kathleen, thank you for entertaining those questions there for and your time today. It's been incredible to talk with you. And for anybody listening, one of the things that Kathleen, sorry, offered at the very beginning of this before I hit record is a free virtual copy of her book, The Top 1% Life, and you can find that at top1percentlife.com. That's TOP, the numeral one, spell out the word percent life.com. It is the real estate edition. You can find it if you'd prefer to get a hard paperback cover, or if you're a Kindle subscriber, it's on Amazon as well. And you can find out more at kathleenspeaks.com, right? Anything else that we should cover today?
No, I don't think so. Just for anybody listening, the publisher who picked up the book, the actual release, who will be all across North America bookstores next week, January 26th. But that is Top 1% Life, Shift from Chaos to Calm in Your Business and Life. So that's not just for real estate. And that'll be all over main bookstores. So I
That's
think most
for
people have,
everybody listening
yeah.
today, whether you own real estate, want to get into real estate. We all are in chaos, some form of chaos every day. So that one's going to be for everybody.
Yeah,
So
that one's for everybody. But no, thank you so much for having me, Jade. It's been a pleasure.
absolutely. Same here. And I will touch base with you real soon. All right, y'all. So let me know what you thought about this episode. I thought it was the bomb diggity, which is apparently is a phrase I've been using here recently. Let's bring it back. Let's bring the bomb diggity back. Here's what I recommend as next steps for you. Number one, connect with Kathleen. You can find her at kathleenspeaks.com. You can get links to all of the stuff that she offers and her social media feeds at kathleenspeaks.com. And second thing, let us know in the comments. What did you think about today's interview with Kathleen? Good or bad? What did you know? What resonated with you? What didn't resonate with you? What did you agree with? What did you disagree with? Right? Let me and Kathleen know what you just thought about spending this time with us. And if you could, hit the thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever the case may be. I like the thumbs up better. I think it helps out with the YouTube algorithm as I continue to learn about this. But if you're not feeling it, having a bad day, whatever the case may be is, and it makes you feel better to put a thumbs down, put a thumbs down. All right. Next up, I want to see you in these videos right here.